Hi, this is Kim White with the My Sexy Business team. I'm here at session 7 of Collaboration Summit. I cannot believe it's already on the 7th one. It seems like we just started. And I have to tell you, the peeps that are on this summit are my flavor. I love them so much, and I love what I've seen them do. And this beautiful, beautiful guest is absolutely one of my favorites. She is now graduating from Collaboration 101, but we've got some pretty amazing stuff to tell you that gives you an example of what collaboration can look like. So welcome the chief dreamer and repurpose queen herself, Yong Pratt.
Kim, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my goodness. You are like the last guest, Angela Stillwell. We get in trouble because we get to talking and then I forget to push the button. So I am just thrilled you are here. I'm thrilled with what all has happened. And, I want to start off the way I've been starting off all the sessions, which is talking about the fact that you graduated Collaboration 101. We just finished it. And what did you learn in that class?
Well, first I have to say there's a ton that I learned and I took away and was able to apply directly into my life in a really real quick manner. But the one thing that I loved about the class is that collaboration isn't all about the flow of ideas. That if you have an idea, there's probably somebody in your circle of influence that could help you get there faster, because of the way that you work together. Because really, when you put more than one mind together, this magic starts to happen because the ideas go back and forth and back and forth. And that's very much what happened to you and I, and what we were able to collaborate on in a very short span of time.
Very short. That's one of the things that, to me, collaboration is going quicker and farther together than we can go individually. And I've watched it for years be so sexy a process. This class, it was the first time I've taught it this way, and you really were part of the co-creation of this class because of your input, your feedback, and your questions and the things that weren't clear that you all asked for. And I think that's such a sexy process. Yes. Such a sexy process. Well, what benefit, because I think this is one of the biggest benefits, but what benefit did you actually get from Collaboration 101?
So this is the class coming to life. So when we started the class, Kim had approached me and said, hey, I want to start a podcast. I want to have you help me do it. And so we were going back and forth about having me do it. And then she wanted to learn it. And then I told her, well, I have this 8-week course that I've been doing primarily with kids and families. However, the material is suited for pretty much anybody who wants to take it. And she pretty much said, I don't have 8 weeks. I don't think anybody has 8 weeks. So she challenged me to put something together where the wins could be really big in the shortest amount of time. So what became of this is that we started having ideas and brainstorming, going back and forth and saying, hey, what about this? And what about this? And what do you think about this? And the collaboration with all of our ideas together turned into podcast in a weekend. So this past weekend, we had our first 8 graduates, including the lovely Kim, who went through this class and now have real live podcasts on tons of platforms now. And we put it together in a single weekend, which I think is the sexiest thing, because Kim challenged me to make it short, give everybody big wins. And so I'm still living on this cloud 9 of these high emotions, because it was such an amazing experience. It was the first time I had ever done it in this condensed version. However, now that we've been through it, I know it's possible. So I'm excited for other people to do it as well, because again, 8 people went through the class. 8 people walked out on the other side with a podcast. And I don't know many courses who have that kind of record.
No, No, and I will say this too, is I don't want to do the long version of anything. I want to be tutored so I can get a quick win. That's how I am, like, all the time. But when I realized that you could do that in that podcasting, because you're like a podcasting guru, and I've wanted a podcast. I think these are just like Princess Confessions, but
Mm-hmm.
I had wanted a podcast for several years.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like this was just something, oh, I think I'll have one. It was something I had wanted, and I've accomplished a great deal in my business. And I had never accomplished that because it was too daunting. It looked too big. And I think that my biggest win in going through your weekend class, I can't keep stressing that enough, in a weekend, was that instead of it being 30 minutes extra a week that I did for a podcast, which is it's a normal thing, because of the automation and the repurposing that you taught us, I now will save about 3 hours a week and have a podcast. How does that work?
Yes. It's so good. And I think, we set out to create everyone's podcast in a weekend. Like you said, though, it's more than just a podcast, because we're putting in systems into place that are automated, that are repeatable, and that are just going to run in the background while you get to be in front of your audience, sharing your story, helping them achieve whatever you help them achieve. And it all happens in the background. You don't need additional staff to do it. Once you set it up, it's good to go. And I think that's the coolest thing. And it's definitely a sexy principle about, once you set it up, like, this foundation is there, this machine is always there, always running in the background. You can kind of forget about it because now things just happen. And for a business owner, that's a really, really important thing, to be able to automate things and have an actual system, not just, sometimes we do it like this and sometimes we do it like this, but every time you press go live on Facebook, these are all the things you're going to create. And to me, I love being able to show business owners that that's even possible, because I didn't know that until probably about a year and a half ago, when I was introduced to all these things too. And I thought, why is nobody talking about this? And I think it's because it's kind of this well-kept secret that I just, I have this heart for my fellow entrepreneurs, and I wanted to give them this gift too, because I know how it changed my life when I did this, and really affected the things I didn't have to do anymore in my business or hire someone to do. And that's been the funnest thing, to see everyone get their systems, their machines set up, because now it's like a well-oiled machine. And we can keep adding things to this thing, and more comes out on the output end without any more input, which is such a cool thing.
So sexy. And I will say, it's funny that you, when I went into the class, I just can't get away from this part. When I went into the class, I was thinking I was coming out with just a podcast. Mm-hmm. Like, that was my only goal. And when I came out the other side, can you introduce your new superhero to everyone, though? Like, because I came out the other side with this superhero system that Yong came up with, that now I have all of these things in place that are doing things that I was having to pay someone to do before.
Yes, and this was definitely a collaboration with the birth of this superhero. So I'm all about superheroes. It's the name of the book that I first published, has to do with superheroes. And so this idea of being a superhero, and Kim was calling me a superhero, so I was thinking, gosh, we need a superhero to be the mascot of this class. And so what we came up with is a character named Pammy. She is the podcast automation machine. And of course, it's my Pammy. It's your machine. And, Pammy is your best friend when it comes to business, because she has all the super secret ninja tricks and hacks to help you work really, really smart in your business.
Oh my goodness. So smart. And it has actually created a way for me to get some extra time in my week that I wasn't getting already. That's what's and I think the co-creation part of class when you do a class messy
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know what to expect really, but you're going to try to answer basically what someone's asked of you.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden you come up with a Pammy, or all of a sudden you come up with a, such a sexy process
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't even know to sell it to me on the other way. You didn't even know how to sell me on how much of a time it would save
Right.
me. I'm the one that messaged you and said, "Are you kidding me? You said it would take 30 more minutes, and now I have like an extra 3 hours. Do you know how much time that is?"
Yeah, and the 30 minutes really comes from, if you're going to go live to your audience, which I always recommend for podcasters, that, you may spend 30 minutes going live, but then the rest takes care of itself. So then you're saving more time on the back end, but in the front end, all you have to do is show up. And I know there are so many people already doing that. So I want them to know that if they're already showing up or they want to show up bigger, this is such a door opener. The possibilities that come from automating these kinds of things, because once you automate this in your business, you start thinking about what else could I automate in my business? And there are so many things that we are all spending time doing manually that we could absolutely automate.
Well, and I actually had approached you in the beginning. I was just going to hire you to set up everything for me. And when the class came about, I decided I was going to take the class, not because I couldn't pay you to do the class or to do the podcast, but because I couldn't tell someone that they could do it if I couldn't do it, because I'm not a very techie princess. So my challenge to Yong was, you have to make it where even a kindergarten princess can do this.
And I think I was able to make that happen because I know I love technology, so sometimes I can make it too difficult. But I really was challenged by Kim over and over again during our collaboration. You need to clean up this. You need to clarify this. And I think people are going to ask this. Have you thought about this? And having somebody to collaborate with and to be eyes looking in, that was so huge, because sometimes when we're creating things, we're so wrapped up and we have our blinders on. We're wrapped up in what we're doing and we have this vision of what's going to happen. And until somebody starts to question that, not in a bad way, but in a way that makes us think bigger and think more long term. And that's exactly what Kim did with me in this process. And I love that you went through the class yourself and you said, no, I want to do it too. I want to be the poster child of this thing because I think it could really be something that's going to benefit a lot of people.
And if I can do it, you could use this all day long. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I might not have been the first one to finish, but I did it. And I pushed all the buttons. I followed your step-by-step instructions and came out the other side with the podcast. I think we started on Friday with the first part of the work. Mm-hmm. And by Monday, because it was a holiday, we were having wine together, mm-hmm. toasting our brand new podcast. There were 8 of us graduating from Friday to Monday. Yeah. How does that happen? And you look at that and you think a podcast is something you take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to set up, or you have to go through this horrible process.
Yeah.
And because of you and your brilliant mind of podcasting, you basically gave us your learning curve. You basically taught us your learning curve. How sexy is that?
Yeah, and it was so much fun. And when you challenged me to make it shorter and shorter and shorter, I got a little bit panicked because I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to take 8 weeks and put it into a weekend? But we extracted the very best, most crucial steps, because once a podcast is up and running, you can still continue to tweak it and make it different and add things and take things away. But the biggest key is to get it up and running, because once you start this machine, you have the momentum that then takes you forward to the next thing, and you can keep adding on. And it's this living, breathing creation that you've made. And I love that, you get it up fast, and then let's put in some more work on the back end. And start to put some time into other things, like how we're going to market this thing, how might we make money with this thing. So there's things, that are, the wheels are starting to turn though in the beginning. Once the podcast is up, then all the doors, all the windows get thrown open, and all of a sudden, ooh, what about this? And ooh, what about this? All these opportunities come about. And again, it all started with a single collaboration.
But I'm still blown away by like how amazing you are though, because most people, and I think I'm guilty of this too, so I'm not saying anything about anyone else, but I think we all are guilty of doing too much.
Mm-hmm.
And we're guilty of not wanting to let go of our baby we've created. Yeah. And I think that is, and I will just say right now, you don't even know this yet, Yong. Yesterday, our entire logo and everything changed because someone finally got through my thick head something I couldn't understand. Well, it's just true. If you can't convince me or can't show me something, I have to see it.
Yeah.
I think that's the crazy part about what you did in this class is you showed me how to do this step by step. I cannot explain any simpler than that it was on one tab I had you open with the step-by-step short videos, so that it didn't feel like it was so daunting. The other tab was doing the work. I didn't have to go through the class and take notes and think about it. It was all laid out where I had everything ready to do. And what a sexy, sexy, sexy thing. all the ladies that took it, this round was all ladies, and all the ladies that took it messaged me and were talking about how amazing it feels to have such a big win, because that's the thing we got from you. You gave us your learning curve so that in just a matter of 3 days, we have such a big win that several of us had wanted a podcast for years. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden, because you are in our life, we have it.
It's been amazing to watch this unfold. I mean, just to see you guys jump in with both feet and say, yes, I'm totally in. And even times when it felt like maybe something was backwards, I'd say, just trust that once you have this set up, you'll understand why we did it once it's done. But just know that this is the way to do it. And it feels a little bit maybe uncomfortable because you might have done it a different way. But because I've been doing this for so long now, I just know this is the way that we do this every single week. And it's been successful. And we're able to publish 2 podcasts a week at this point. And had I not had this particular system, I wouldn't be able to do that either, because it would take up so much time. Like when I launched my podcast first in 2013, everything was manual and it was so daunting. And I kind of dreaded some days, like, I have to sit and make this podcast. I don't even know what I want to talk about. And it was not that it wasn't inspiring to do it, but there were some days I felt the weight of what it was that I was creating. So now, though, to be on the other side and, tried a bunch of things and to find this system that it's like, wow, this has really revolutionized the way that I do things and, makes our lives so easy. And I work with my kids in my business and they're able to do some of these things, and there aren't many things to do. However, now I automate the majority of it. They handle most of the manual stuff and make things look really pretty for me. And I can just show up. And that's the most beautiful thing. And that's what I've loved seeing the 8 of you go through this weekend, because not only did we get our podcast up and running, everyone did at least one podcast interview, which is huge, because again, the first time you do anything, whether it's launch a podcast or go live for the first time, it feels daunting. But to know that you have this group of people, you have me to support you and hold your hand in this process, all of a sudden, okay, we're going to jump off this cliff. We're going to hold hands. We're going to count to 3, and we're just going to press live or press go, and we're going to make it happen. And that's what I loved about the weekend, that everybody was fully committed. And like you said, there were some people, I know somebody messaged me and said, for 8 years, she has wanted to podcast. So now, after 8 years, to make that happen, especially in a weekend, and now she can continue to grow this thing and do beautiful things with it. I'm loving this journey that I now get to watch for all of you going through this, because you're 8 more people out there in the world doing incredible things, making a bigger impact with your work, because the way that a podcast works, it allows us to reach so many more people on a bigger level, and it allows us to reach them worldwide.
Yes. And I think that, people may not understand the value of a podcast if they're not someone who regularly listens to a podcast, but podcasts can be magic for a business. Like, that is a super amazing way to gain credibility and to give credibility. When you do interviews with people and you can, and really this summit is an example of that as well. My heart's intent is to promote every one of you that graduated. And I've watched you do the same thing. Like, you have promoted the 8 of us relentlessly. Like, you have promoted us and our podcast, because it's almost like we both feel like proud mama hens. It's like what you were trying to give. And I think that's the thing that a leader really does of something like this, is you gave us a huge gift. You gave us something that we were wanting, but we didn't know how to get it. And now we have Pammy, we have you, we have like the amazing podcast. And I will say out loud, for my goal for this year, I'm setting a pretty lofty goal, because this is September already, but I intend to have 100 podcasts up before this year is over.
Yeah, and I think for you, that's a perfect goal, because you're the big visionary. And when you want something, you're full on about, you know what, it's up and running. So I'm going to jump in with both feet. I'm going to paddle. I'm going to do what I need to do to get that done. So I have no doubt that even though we are in September and you have 3 months till the end of the year, you're going to be able to meet that, if not exceed that number.
And thank you for your vote of confidence, because coming from you, that means a ton. You know the process. So it's so exciting. Well, okay, so this was a one-time thing? Of course not. This was just the beginning. I feel like this is just the very drop in the middle of the ocean for what's going to happen next.
Yeah, so we are going to be opening up the doors for the second podcast in a weekend class, and that's coming up October 12th through 14th. So if you are interested, reach out to me right here on Facebook, reach out to Kim, and she can connect us. But definitely, if you have a business and you're not getting the reach that you want, you're not getting the people in your doors or in your online business, a podcast is a virtual business card, but 10 times that, because it allows people to get to know, like, and trust you by listening to your voice. And they can listen whether they're on vacation, whether they're walking in the woods. And that's really the power of podcasting. And I really believe that everybody should have a podcast, whether or not you have a business, because everybody has gifts and talents. And, it wasn't an accident we were put on this planet. We were put on this planet to share our messages. And a podcast allows us to do it in a really, really big way. So I'm going to challenge you, if you have thought about a podcast, about, maybe I want to do a podcast, to the people who are saying, yes, I've wanted to do a podcast for years, but I've been put off because the process is so long and daunting, and I don't have 8 weeks. If that's you, definitely reach out and message us, comment below, and we can have a chat about what that looks like for you, so we can get your podcast out into the world so the people who need you can find you.
Such a good message, along with the class, because you are determined to change the world. And I feel like you should have some kind of a saying that says, changing the world one podcast at a time. One
Ooh,
podcaster.
that's a great one. That's a great one. And when I had my performing arts school, that was our tagline, changing lives, one student at a time. So that would be totally fitting. But I like that. I may have to use this. And again, you guys just watch us collaborate this in real time, that sparking these ideas for somebody else and doing the same for somebody else. I mean, that's a big deal. It's a gift we can give to ourselves and to others, to reach out and start a dialogue and collaborate. And that's, for me, what this class has been all about, because the people who were in this class, I mean, the support, knowing that you have each other's backs and you're giving support and you're receiving support, it's this beautiful process that unfolds.
Yes. Well, it's been a very sweet process for me. And I am so proud of you for doing it, because here's the thing most people do is they don't believe in the possibility, and they don't believe in themselves, and they get stubborn because of their fear. Yeah. And you jumped off the cliff with me and said, okay. And you have just gone back and done over and over. And I just so appreciate you. I so appreciate your attitude. And this is just amazing. Our relationship means a great deal to me. But watching you be able to go on and do something, and I think this is the power of collaboration too, is I don't have to be involved in anything from now on. I will be, but I don't have to be. You are the one that is doing this amazing thing, that maybe the ideas came, but you're doing the work, and you're showing up, and you're blessing people every single day. And what an amazing thing to be empowered in such a huge way. And it empowered me for you to be in my class. I mean, that's the thing, is what an amazing thing.
Yeah, it was such a beautiful experience. And, when I set out in 2018, I chose my word. Lots of gurus and mentors out there will say, what is your word for this year? And I decided that my word in 2018 was impact. I wanted to make a bigger impact in the world. And honestly, I had no idea what that was going to look like, because it was, I was starting a brand new venture, a brand new business after 17 years of doing something different, related, but different. And so then you came into my life shortly after that. And all of a sudden, you made it possible by challenging me and questioning and giving me opportunities, like being part of your Collaboration 101 group, where we were challenging. You kept challenging the norm. Well, yes, you could do it that way, but what about this? And so I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart too, because this last weekend could not have been possible had it not been for your class and the collaboration that we went through to make it happen. So I want to thank you, Kim, and you're my flavor for sure, and I just so appreciate you.
Oh, you're gonna make me cry, and I can't afford to have my mascara run today. Thank you for your sweet words, and thank you for coming on the summit today. Thank you for graduating from the class. Thank you. Just, I can go down the whole list again. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's always such a blast to chat with you, Kim.
We always get ourselves into trouble because time just stops, except it doesn't. So now we're out of time for this session. If you're watching this summit, I will tell you, you definitely want to get connected to Yong Pratt. And whether you want a podcast or not, she's a world changer, and you want to connect to her. If you want to take the class is coming up in October 12th through the 14th. And if you want a big win, in your business, go talk to Yong, because you will absolutely get it. I love you guys. Thank you for being on today and watching. If you're watching on the replay, be sure and put #replay. And we will be back at 1 Central Standard Time for session 8. Thank you guys. Love you.